when whistleblower David A. Nielsen, a devout Mormon and close source to the church, revealed that the church had a multi-billion-dollar clandestine hedge fund and was dodging billions of dollars in taxes by falsifying records, we all wondered just how wealthy is the Mormon Church? Could they secretly be the wealthiest religious organization in the U.S.? In this video, we take a closer look at the unimaginable wealth of the Mormon Church. From a multi-billion-dollar shopping mall and a company that rakes in over $1 billion in revenue yearly to an outrageous real estate portfolio, massive agricultural land, and a hedge fund consisting of the biggest names in tech like Apple and Microsoft, join us on our quest to unravel the true wealth of the Mormon Church. And you know what? You wouldn't believe just how well their hedge fund is doing. So watch to the end to find out more. Like, subscribe, and let's get started. 1. City Creek Mall. So, in late March 2012, the Mormon Church pulled off something big. They unveiled a massive mall called City Creek Center, which cost around $2 billion to build right across from their famous Salt Lake Temple. Now, this place isn't just any mall. It got almost 100 stores and a retractable glass roof. Besides, it featured many restaurants and big-name brands as tenants, including fancy Tiffany's, trendy Forever 21, Rolex, and more. And get this, the mall even connects to the church's well-kept campus with walkways. You won't believe it, but at the time, Macy's was practically neighbors with the offices of the then church president, Thomas S. Monson, whom Mormons looked up to as a prophet. On opening day, the place was packed, with excited shoppers who couldn't wait to dive into the stores. 2. Desiree Management Corp. DMC. Basically, this is the power player in the Mormon Church's financial game. Think of it as the conductor orchestrating a symphony of money-making moves for the church. According to sources, this mastermind generates a whopping $1.2 billion in revenue annually. And get this, it's not just one thing. DMC is in charge of 6 different companies, all hustling for profits for the church. You'll spot Desiree on many of the church's business ventures. So, just to bring you up to speed, Desiree comes from the Book of Mormon, and it means honeybee. 3. Beneficial Financial Group. Among DMC's subsidiaries, the Beneficial Financial Group stands out as one of the star players. Based in the heart of Salt Lake City, Utah, they're all about the money game, specifically insurance and financial services. And we're talking serious stuff here, with their assets reaching a jaw-dropping $3.3 billion. But that's not all. Their yearly revenue, well, it's soaring over a mind-blowing $600 million. Talk about making those numbers dance. Through DMC, the Mormon Church also has its fingers in the media and communication pie. The corporation holds sway over a collection of assets, including over 10 radio stations, notably KSL Channel 5. Furthermore, DMC provides over a prominent book publishing entity and a chain of bookstores under the moniker Desiree Book. Not to forget, the Desiree News newspaper and a TV station add to the media tapestry, amplifying the church's expansive footprint in this sector. 5. Real estate. The Mormon Church does not shy away from owning property, a lot of it for that matter. Through DMC, they're overseeing 3 major for-profit real estate players: Hawaii Reserves, Temple Square Hospitality, and Zion Securities. These arms do it all: own, develop, and manage stuff like malls, parking lots, offices, and homes. Take Hawaii Reserves, for instance. They're the boss of over 7,000 acres on Oahu, running everything from buildings to parks, even sewage systems, and a cemetery. And remember City Creek Center? That's their masterpiece. Utah Property Management Associates, a real estate wing of the church, takes care of parts of it. As you might recall, the word on the street is that the mall alone set the church back around $2 billion, and it's just one piece of a grand $5 billion makeover of downtown. Moving ahead in 2016, the Mormon Church snagged a massive 380-unit apartment complex in Texas, a deal worth tens of millions. Not to be outdone, they're making waves in Philadelphia too, where they invested in a whole shopping area, a towering 32-story apartment block, and a picturesque plaza right across from a brand new Mormon temple. Back in Salt Lake City, they're in the midst of crafting something big. How big? Think almost 4,000 homes in a fresh, master-planned community on the city's west side. And still in 2016, they unveiled a real showstopper, the slick and upscale 111 main skyscraper attracting interest from big players like Goldman Sachs. 6. Nonprofit organizations. The Mormon Church also has its hands in the nonprofit spot too. But interestingly, these ventures are turning quite a profit. Take the Polynesian Cultural Center, for instance, sitting on a sprawling 42-acre tropical wonderland up on Oahu's North Shore. This is the place for hosting luau's, canoe rides, and tours through 7 simulated villages. But nothing comes free, remember? The admission ticket starts at $49.95 for adults. Back in 2010, the center was holding assets worth a whopping $70 million. And that's not all. They raked in $23 million from ticket sales alone, plus an extra $36 million in donations that didn't get taxed. And guess what? The big cheese, the center's president, was pulling in a salary of $296,000. Now there's a twist in the tale. The story goes to this place, which kicked off in 1963, had to start paying commercial property taxes in 1992. Why, you ask? Well, the Land and Tax Appeal Court of Hawaii ruled that it's not just all charity, it's a business. But despite this, they're still cruising tax-free at the federal level. How? They're waiving the Living Museum and education-oriented charity flags, plus they're hiring students from Brigham Young University, Hawaii. 7. AG Reserves. Now, AG Reserves, another player under the Mormon umbrella, is all about the green. And no, it's not money, but acres. With many church-linked agricultural friends, they're holding a stunning 1 million acres across the U.S. Think farms, orchards, hunting spots, and sprawling ranches. They've got this massive 290,000-acre stretch called Desiree Ranches down in Florida. And it's not just land, it's a full-blown operation. Think 44,000 cows and 1,300 bulls. And that's just the beginning. They're also in the citrus, sod, and timber game. Oh, and it's worth a staggering $1 billion. But the story doesn't stop at U.S. borders. Ag Reserves is globe-trotting in style. They're tilling the soil in Britain, Canada, Australia, Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil. Their Australian property, valued at $61 million in '97, is ringing up sales of a whopping $276 million yearly. Speaking of, in 2014, when church-owned farms in Australia were put up for sale, reports estimated their worth at about $120 million. Recently, Ag Reserves acquired another 380,000 acres in Florida's northwestern panhandle, the strip of land along the Gulf of Mexico. 8. $100 million hedge fund. You might be surprised by this, but the truth is that the Mormon Church is no stranger to the big league of investments, with a whopping $100 billion in its portfolio. In fact, they have a massive $46.2 billion of that parked in stocks. This portfolio is registered with the SEC under the name Ensign Peak Advisors, and it has about $3 billion of the church's stock investments split right down the middle between tech giants Apple and Microsoft. Oh, and here's a cool fact. 2/3 of their stock stash comes from a mix of 100 companies and mutual funds. And guess what? A good chunk of that, 26%, is in the tech sector. Following that are the healthcare and financial services, including big names like Johnson & Johnson, Merck, Bank of America, and Berkshire Hathaway. They've also got skin in the game, owning stock in Utah-based companies like Zions Bank with a reported $91.8 million, and Pluralsight, an online education firm, with a cool $76.7 million. And while the church, through DMC, has its fingers in for-profit pies like insurance, radio stations, and even TV channels, its investment arm, Ensign Peak Advisors, is actually playing for the other team. They've got stock in SiriusXM, competitors to local ABC, CBS, and Fox affiliates, and even a piece of the New York Times Company. And speaking of principles, they're keeping things in line with their beliefs. You won't find cigarettes or beer manufacturers on their list, and not a single penny's gone into coffee chains like Starbucks. Plus, out of the 30 companies in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, they didn't jump into Coca-Cola stocks. Even soda makers like PepsiCo and Keurig Dr. Pepper didn't make their cut. And how is this hedge fund performing, you might ask? Well, pretty well, seeing as it grew by a whopping $4.1 billion toward the end of 2022. Newly filed reports valued the huge account managed by Ensign Peak Advisors at $44.4 billion at the end of December 2022. That uptick reversed 3 consecutive quarters of declines that had seen the church's holdings fall from $52.3 billion at the end of 2021 to $40.3 billion as of September 2022. Apple is leading the pack in its investment portfolio, worth $2.3 billion, followed by Microsoft at $1.96 billion and 2 types of Alphabet shares totaling $1.2 billion. And despite the pandemic dip in the first quarter of 2020, the church investments are now 48.65% above that low point of $29.9 billion as global markets responded to COVID-19. Now, did you ever imagine that the Mormon Church had such immense wealth and an intricate financial landscape? Leave a comment below. While at it, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.